Hey Grizhoot, how's it going? I will be getting started in a minute. Just kind of getting some last minute things set up. Hopefully you can hear me okay. Had a little bit of technical difficulty setting things up. Everything decided to be really slow and unresponsive. But I think I'm about there. Looks like everything's going okay now. Cool. Okay. Yep, I think I'm good to go. You've been working on basing and priming some of your minis? Very cool, very cool. I need to get better at doing that. I do it regularly, and my minis tend to look really decent because of it, but, you know, it's something that I could get better at. Because I tend to have, like, one system. And that's kind of where it ends. Okay, so. Oh, I got my camera in there now because it doesn't matter. Okay, so I have been working on these guys. This is the second one. I finished the first one a couple days ago. Well, yesterday, I think. And I want to continue making them, or finishing these guys up so I can put them in my Death Guard army, which I'm just starting to rebuild after having sold it. So this guy is going to continue getting this high contrast look. I think... Okay, no, I'm not quite there yet. I'm still in the yellow. The way I've kind of been doing it is he starts with like a really dark reddish purple and then builds up to the green into this really nice emerald green, but then I've got to do some yellow to eventually like an ice yellow highlight. So I think that's what I'm going to work on probably until about 6:37ish. So what minis have you been basing and priming, if I may ask? These looking good so far, thank you. Yeah, I did Typhus in this style when I bought the Combat Patrol for the second time, and then I did the first Death Guard Terminator like this because I kind of want that unit to stand out as just being, you know, really cool looking and being a really big threat. So that's kind of the plan there. Okay, let's mix that up. I'm going to use the Vortex Mixer really quick. Get some ice yellow. Actually, I think this is Dorn yellow, which I don't think I've ever seen used on an Imperial Fist character. But Dorn yellow and a little bit of light green. Let me see. Where did I put the other one? So, this is Typhus. This is how Typhus ended up turning out. And honestly, it's one of the best miniatures I've ever done. I remember when I took pictures of him, I thought that he looked like a mini that I would see on Instagram and then wish I was good enough to make a mini this good. You got a bunch of goblins from an Epic Encounters box, some ghouls, and some mushroom cloaks for D&D. That sounds pretty cool. I want to get back into painting D&D. I just haven't really done it recently. I've got a bunch of minis that I kind of want to repaint, so I think I've got a pretty big queue, but that's going to be the next thing I do. Okay, so this is this is the first one of the Death Shroud Terminators. So you can see I kind of copied it. I definitely forgot to do some steps, so he's going to be the least vibrant of the three. But yeah, all three of them are going to end up having this similar look to go alongside Typhus. So that way, people are very, very good at identifying when they're about to have a problem. Because, I mean, Typhus is already a problem, but when you have him with some Death Shroud Terminators, life becomes really bad for those involved. So that's the plan. We'll see if I can get him to that level. Actually, I don't think this yellow is going to work. Now, unfortunately for me, this is a fairly tiny process, so a lot of the stuff I'm going to be doing is just like these little baby strokes. And they're going to be really subtle on the Mini. Hopefully they'll show up okay on camera. Up until recently, OBS Studio and Camo weren't really giving me great visual feedback. But then I bought a new laptop, and when I reinstalled OBS, everything seemed to sharpen up tremendously. So my hope is that it continues to be a fairly sharp image, even though it's from a cell phone, and I can continue to get high detail shots of me painting. But I suppose we will see. A bit more of that green in there. Looks good on my end. Fantastic. Good to know. Good to know. Okay. Yeah, this is coming out more like a milky green. That's not quite what I want. I think I am going to go ahead and add some Averland Sunset back in, because I want this to have a little bit more of a yellow flush to it than I'm getting with the Dorn yellow. I used to watch these videos of people doing these like super intense layering steps, and I would be so stunned at how many different colors they were using to achieve the color depth they were getting, and it always felt like way too much. And now that I'm starting to try and emulate it, it's like, oh, I understand now. All of the different color variety creates much better color depth in the Mini. Who'd have thunk it? I'm a forever DM, so I mostly just slap chop with Armored Container speed paints and stick on some tufts and little rocks. Well, I mean, for D&D, that's more than enough, I feel. Who the heck is calling? Hold on, please. Why can't that start right now on screen? Unfortunately, it's my wife. She's down in... She's out of state right now at a convention. I couldn't go with her because of we weren't able to get anyone to pet sit. So I'm still up here manning the fort and watching the pets. And I suppose she just wanted to call to say hi, but I'm using my cell phone as my camera, and I really didn't want to have to unhook everything after spending the last 45 minutes getting it all to work. So I just sent her a little text saying, sorry, busy. You do want to try getting into Mordheim at some point? I'm going to try painting some of those minis to a higher standard. Yeah, that's kind of where I am too. I actually, as part of a commission trade, I ended up getting Warhammer Fantasy Cursed City, and I've made it my goal to try and paint those minis so that like all of the game pieces are just absolutely stunning to look at. And I'm working on it. I think I'm getting there, but unfortunately, I've kind of hit like a block where I don't want to paint them right now. So I also couldn't pass up the opportunity to buy these guys because they're some of my favorite minis in all of Warhammer. And when I got my first Death Guard army, these were the minis I wanted the most to be a part of it. But when I got the army, it was like a pre-painted lot, and I was too anxious to strip it and completely repaint it because they had also done a pretty hefty basing job and whatnot. So I just kind of left them as they were. And then eventually when I sold out of the Death Guard, I ended up selling those guys as part of it. But then I got the urge to play them again, so here I am. Okay. Now, to be completely honest, I also got to put these ones together, so they do mean a little bit more. But, yeah. I got to play them for a little while. They are absolutely ridiculous on the table. Well, they were in 9th edition. I think in 10th edition they've been weakened down tremendously, which is fine. But I'm very excited to have like this high-quality painted army that people can look at and be mildly intimidated about. I've already done also Mortarion, who's like the Primarch. He's the biggest model. I painted him quite a while ago, and then decided that because I liked what I did to Typhus so much, that I repainted his armor and his robe a little bit in like his bronze trim. And so now he's a lot more vibrant and a lot more, you know, visually eye-catching. But it's continued to make me want to get more Death Guard. So My other projects are kind of on pause as I continue to build out this army. But yeah, I originally got into this stuff because of D&D. I had a bunch of Tyranids ages ago, but I sold them when I was in college. That's fair. They've got some new sculpts that just came out, and the new Tyranids are absolutely fantastic. They're beautifully detailed. So if you ever thought about getting back into Warhammer, now wouldn't be a bad time. A whole bunch of them come as part of the starter pack. And the game has been kind of streamlined a lot so that you don't have as steep a learning curve trying to come in. I think if I were to get back, you'd pick up some orcs. Yeah, gotta love the orcs. They're another army that I want to collect. At one point, I was just kind of buying everything I could because I was like, I want to play everything. I want to have a little bit of everything. And then I realized just how untenable that was. So I've kind of sold off a lot, and I've pared it back down to 4 armies that I want to play and own. And orcs are definitely one of them. And my friends and I actually came up with a pretty good sub-theme for them, because, you know, orcs, like, they always have the sub-factions, and they encourage you to make your own and give it your own lore. With the orcs, you know, they're just kind of intentionally very silly, and that's part of what makes them fun. One of my friends suggested that I start making them, like, TV and movie themed. So I came up with this idea that they would have conquered a hive city and then gone into the basement and found, like, the Imperial Archives, which are just a bunch of DVDs from the late 90s, early 2000s, all the way back to, like, the 70s. And they were going to think that these were actual historical footage of old humans that were incredibly powerful, so they want to emulate those humans and try and be just like them. And they were going to be called the Fanboys. And as it stands right now, I've got one unit that's part of the Fanboys, and that's a Defkilla Wartrike that I've painted up to look like Kaneda's bike from Akira. But I was also going to do, like, the Shock Jump Dragster was going to look like the Mach 5. And, you know, stuff like that. But unfortunately, between my other projects and just my general financial situation, that's not very tenable right now. Hopefully it will be at some point. Okay, let's see. I'm just going to go up the side with this yellow. Give it a little more saturation. Are you going to Adepticon? Nope. Currently, right now, I'm unemployed. I had to leave my last job due to health reasons, and I'm training as part of a job transition. So, the idea of going to a big convention just is not on the radar. Maybe if somehow I get, like, a super lucrative job in between then, but I don't think IT is really going to pay me that well until I start actually making a name for myself and putting in the hours, because I'm going from school teacher into IT, which is, you know, it's not like I'm going to walk in and they're going to go, oh, well, he was a school teacher. Here's a $100,000 a year contract. So, yep, that's kind of the plan right now, is to learn that, get good at it, get an entry-level job somewhere. I'm not going this year, but I'm thinking about trying to go next year. That would be the idea. If I hadn't been forced to an early retirement with my current job, or my previous job, I was going to plan on going to, like, Gen Con with a couple of friends, because they had gone before as, like, small vendors and as volunteers to help run, like, the D&D stuff. And the one that who was telling me about this, he hated it, and he's like, I never want to do that again. You can't convince me to. But I would love to go back to Gen Con as a guest, or as a customer. So we were planning on doing that, but I don't have a steady source of income right now, and the income stream I will be getting won't exactly be where it was as a tenured teacher, you know? So I'm going to get my financial situation in order before I start making plans to go to, like, big events and whatnot. You live in Indy? Very cool. Yeah, that's not far enough a drive, I don't think, for me to be to be deterred, because I live over in Virginia, and I know that's a bit of a drive, but it's not too bad, I don't think. We drove to Chicago last year, so I think we could probably do it. Yeah, it's doable. Yeah, that's part of why, like, I'd love to go to something like Adepticon. I think it is not Adepticon. Which one? Nova Open, I think, is the one up in Northern Virginia, because that's where I'm from originally. So I'm fairly familiar with the area, but I don't have the time nor the money to do so. If I did, I have no idea what I was about to say I have no idea what army I'd bring. But to be completely honest, given how much time and effort I'm putting into these Death Guard, I'd probably bring these guys. Like, I'm a Fist player. I started with Imperial Fist Space Marines. But I think to stand out a little more, and to probably have a little more fun, I would probably go as Death Guard, because they're just a more interesting army. But yeah, I used to play a lot more D&D. I kind of actually want to get back into it, because I've been neck deep in Baldur's Gate since it came out, and it's really like hitting that nerve of making me want to play D&D with friends again. But one of the biggest problems is that one of my friends that I play D&D with moved out to Michigan, so he's pretty far away, and we can't really, you know. We can play with him on, like, Roll20 and whatnot, but his work schedule up until very recently was erratic, so we didn't exactly have a consistent time that we could meet to play. And that changed. He got a job in IT, which is what kind of inspired me to make the move. But unfortunately, we just don't have the time right now. Maybe soon is the plan. But, like, I bought a bunch of Reaper miniatures from their Kickstarter that happened, like, a year or two before the pandemic hit, and then the pandemic hit, and during that summer, I got them all in, like, a shipping box. So it was right around that time where, obviously, we weren't going to be able to play together anymore, and then he moved out of town, so everything's virtual. So, can't really do much with the $150 I think I spent on Reaper miniatures via their Kickstarter. And now I've just got a bunch of unpainted minis laying about, because I have, like, no motivation to paint them. Let's go ahead and get that yellow around there. And yeah, that little hint of yellow-green in this next layer is doing a whole lot to bring a bunch of light and a bunch of highlighting on this guy, and I think it looks fantastic. I'm really happy with how this one's turning out. Yeah, there we go. That looks awesome. A little bit up here. A little bit in here. Eventually, I'm going to have to get a new paintbrush, because this one's starting to lose enough of its point to do some of the things I want to do with it. But right now, it's doing pretty okay. Got just enough of a tip left to allow me to do what I need to do. Wouldn't want to fight him. Yeah, I know, right? especially if you look at them by D&D standards, because I think they're all on the same scale. I remember reading recently that D&D minis and Warhammer minis are technically all at 28mm scale. That he's absolutely massive, because in lore, Space Marines are normally about 7.5 to 8.5 feet tall, because, you know, they're Master Chief. But because he's been corrupted by a plague god, he's even bigger and more bloated than a typical Space Marine, so he's probably closer to 9 feet tall. Okay, I think that'll be okay. Now let's do the back. Yeah, Warhammer doesn't believe in subtlety. That's kind of why I like it, though. It's got, you know, that just direct sledgehammer cudgel ideas of how things are supposed to work, and then it began very ironically taking itself seriously, and that just makes me love it even more. Actually, let me see. I think I've got some human-sized D&D characters, D&D minis. Yeah, okay. So this was a Plague Doctor that I painted a whiles back, that I got from the Dungeon Delver set, and this is how big a Death Shroud Terminator is compared to him. So yeah, size-wise, they're pretty massive. I actually want to repaint this guy because he doesn't look bad, but I feel like with what I know now, he could look a whole lot better. Yeah, these are big guys. And now that I think about it, that makes Mortarion even bigger in comparison, because Mortarion's like 2 or 3 times the size of these guys, because he's completely pumped full of demonic energies. Okay, so next is going to have to be the ice yellow going in with the Averland Sunset to try and make a paler yellow that's only going to go in highlights. So this is not going to be a very powerful color. This is only going to hit in like corners and certain edges. The goal here is not to overdo it, because something I've slowly learned is that if you put too much of a color on top of the other colors, it tends to overwhelm it and you lose that subtle layering that you're going for. And these are all things that I learned very recently. And something I'd like to get better at, to be honest. Okay, and then just kind of at the corners is what sells that these are like high spots. Yeah. There we go. There we go. And see, that way you get kind of the brightness of it, but because of how it's drawn, it makes your eyes just think that it's like extra light catching on the angle. That's my understanding. My eventual goal with this stuff, as much as I enjoy playing Warhammer 40k, I'm definitely enjoying painting it a whole lot more. So my eventual goal here is to get good enough to try and like enter a Golden Demon contest, which, if you don't know, and you probably do, it's you know, Games Workshop's premier painting competition. And they go for a very specific aesthetic. They go for one that matches their style, which I'm not too worried about. I just want to enter and see if I can place at all. But I've got a long way to go. Okay. Hey, Technicat. Heck yeah, go for it. Thank you for the encouragement. That's the goal. Like, I know that I'm getting better every time I do this, and that's really encouraging. So, there's no reason why I can't just try and enter, right? There's nothing saying that you shouldn't do this, other than my own personal doubts, but those don't matter much. I'll eventually get to a point where this feels like a good idea. Until then, I'm just going to keep practicing because I really enjoy this hobby. This whole thing to me is just so relaxing. There we go. A little bit more on the bottom edges, nothing too big. A little bit more right there. A little bit on that top edge. Again, all I'm trying to do here is just add a little hint of a highlight at the corners so that it conveys that there are high spots that are catching the most light. Okay, there we go. Now it's a little more visible. Now that's way too wet. I gotta say, one of the craziest things to me in terms of like improving is realizing that the amount of moisture on your brush is one of the most critical things. I like the volumes you have going on with the green tints. Thank you. I can't take full credit for this. I saw on YouTube a gentleman named Philon Miniatures. I don't know if you've seen him before, but he's an absolutely phenomenal painter that I can't hold a candle to. And he had a high contrast version of not Mortarian, of Typhus that he did. And I was like, I gotta have a Typhus that looks like that. So I sold my original Combat Patrol of Death Guard, and I bought a new one so that I completely rebuild Typhus and try again. And his methods were so easy to follow, and that I felt like I could try, and it turned out really darn good. So I went ahead and bought some Death Shroud Terminators to go alongside Typhus. And so far they're turning out real nice as far as I'm concerned. I think eventually when I get some more Terminators, because I am eventually going to get the Blight Lord style, which are more gun-based than these guys, that I'm not going to go to this level of depth. They're going to get a more grimdark look about them. I think that's the way I want to go with it. Because I only want this look to be on, you know, special characters. And so I feel like Typhus's bodyguard unit, Mortarian, and Typhus himself, they deserve it. But, like, that's it. I can't spend this kind of time on every Warhammer mini. Okay. Just little hints, because otherwise it's going to read as way too much. There we go. A little bit on that corner. Now, admittedly, I also do kind of want to get all these guys set up so that if I were to eventually get that kind of squirrely and decide that I want to make them all look that good, I have like a good launch pad to go off of, you know what I mean? Okay, just a little bit up top. I don't know if I watch Midwinter Minis, they just started building a Warlord Titan-sized Great and Clean one. I saw that in the playlist today, and I was going to give it a watch, but I got busy with other things. And yeah, no, Midwinter Minis is very important to me in the hobby, because he's the one who kind of showed me and convinced me that I could paint better than I was painting at the time. His original speed paint video for doing Death Guard is one of the first things that made me interested in Death Guard, because I had obtained a copy of like the first Strike starter box, and at the time I wasn't interested really in playing either Space Marines or Death Guard, but a friend was, and so he told me, like, you could paint the Space Marines, I'll paint the Death Guard. And I was really put off by them, because I thought the Death Guard were just kind of gross and disgusting, and I didn't want anything to do with them. But I saw a Midwinter Minis video about speed painting them in the Poxwalkers, and I just remembered being so enamored with how gross they came out, and how easy that was to do, that I was like, I want a Death Guard army now. So no, I'm very well aware of Midwinter Minis and how awesome he is. I couldn't imagine trying to play with a Great Unclean one of that size, though. That'd be absolutely ridiculous. Okay, so I think I could go higher with the highlights, but I think I've kind of reached a good spot. I think he looks pretty good and bright. So the next step is going to be the step that I was going to start with, which was to go ahead and start working on his trim. And his trim is going to start off with kind of a brown. In fact, it's going to start off with Vallejo flat brown, and then we're going to move up to a Vallejo bright orange, and then eventually into a decent yellow. Because his stuff is going to look like, you know how rust can kind of have that orangey red tint to it? That's kind of where I want to start, but I want it to look like an open sore wound, you know what I mean? That's still kind of red and pussy, or red and angry, and that's because that's how I have the other guys. So, as I've already kind of shown before, this is the last one I did, and I didn't quite get him up to the same level of brightness as the one I'm working on, but he looks pretty good. But you can see that the rust on there, it doesn't look like a faded, you know, decaying rust. It looks very angry. It looks kind of like a sore, and that's where I want to go with it, because the vibrancy is what really drives it home, right? And this is definitely not my normal painting style with these guys. Usually I do a lot more grimdark, but I was inspired. Okay, so actually no, he started with like a magenta, so I'm actually going to go ahead and start with this Gal Vorback red, because he started with, I don't remember if it was like brick red mixed with a brown or something, but we're going to start here. We're going to mix this brown in with this magenta to get the base color, and then I'm going to move up and I'm going to continue making it even brighter. So we're going to mix that together, see what kind of awful, like, maroon that I get. Maroon, not magenta. Don't know where my head is right now. Yeah, that's going to be nice and good. Okay. We're just going to go all around. And the cool thing is that even though this looks really bright now, it's going to contrast a lot darker compared to the other colors that are going into this mini, or going into the metal parts. And that's what's going to give it that really nice angry look. Get all of the parts that are going to eventually have this rusty, gross, angry orange. Angry, brassy stuff. Bronzy stuff. Angry bronze. That's what I'm looking for. And originally, I'd completely forgotten that I was supposed to use the Gal Vorback red when I first painted this guy and first primed him. So I've got him primed in a fairly dark purple, and realized it was an oopsie later, but it honestly looks really good as kind of a shadow base coat, so not too mad about that. Okay. Now these are going to go on. And again, this is one of those things that it's going to have like a weird ugly phase, and then it's going to eventually build up to like this beautiful rot. And yeah, going back to the Great Unclean one for a second, I really don't want to spend that kind of money on one, so I'm not going to purchase one myself. I found a really awesome 3D print of Rotigus, so I'm going to go ahead and 3D print that out, and that's going to become part of my army, because I don't really plan on playing this in like sanctioned tournaments. That's not my goal. My goal is to have cool armies that my friends and I can throw at each other. So like, I've got an Imperial Fist army that's well over 2,000 points, and about a third of it is 3D printed just because I didn't have the money to, you know, buy the vehicles, buy the characters, etc., etc. And I've kind of been replacing it with Games Workshop plastic and resin, but until I actually decide if I ever want to play in like official tournaments, it's not that big a deal. I print them things too, so they're not particularly worried about it. You always thought the Great Unclean was a cool design, goofy, spooky, and gross, but it's so dang expensive. Agreed wholeheartedly. I get it, because it's a very complex mold, or a very complex sculpt. But yeah, the one time that I was about to buy it, my wife has been incredibly supportive of my Warhammering hobbying. But the one thing she says that she never wants to see in the house is a Great Unclean one. Because she's just absolutely squicked out by the model. And I won a painting contest locally across 2 categories. And the reward for winning was 30% store credit on based on the MSRP, or based on the price of the models that you purchased to enter the contest. And I purchased Gilliman and some Blightlord Terminators. So I ended up getting a substantial amount of store credit off of that. And I was going to use it to buy a Great Unclean one, which would have made me exceedingly happy. But it would have made my wife really upset. And so she was like, you know, I'm not going to stop you because it's your hobby, but, ugh. And then she looked and noticed, and she was like, hey, didn't you want to, like, continue practicing non-metallic metal? And I went, yeah. And she's like, didn't you also want to get a Custodes army? And I was like, well, yeah. So, well, you can get a Custodes Combat Patrol instead. And, so yeah, I bought a Custodes Combat Patrol instead. And now I have, like, a 2/3 finished, or no, 1/3 finished Custodes Combat Patrol that, I kind of got real sad about because the non-metallic metals were not turning out okay. But it all worked out in the end because now I'm going to have a 3D printed Rodigus. She found out about it and she's, well, I guess I can't go in the basement anymore. You've never tried non-metallic metal? It's taken me a while to get where I am with it, but it's definitely not easy once you get started. My basic understanding of it is that you have to have really sharp contrasts between, like, bright and, or light and shadow. And if you don't have that, it doesn't really work as non-metallic metal. Which I kind of get. I'm not very good at making, clean non-metallic metal. I think I do a pretty okay job with, like, the desiccated, rotted stuff, as you can tell. But trying to do just straight non-metallic metal is very difficult, and I'm not very good at it. Working with the Custodes was only so much help. Now, I made the mistake of, when I got Gilliman and I entered the contest, I was like, you know, I'm really nervous about this contest. I'd like to win it, or I'd like to place in it, so I guess I'm going to have to pull out all the stops. So for Gilliman, I guess I'm going to do his trim entirely in non-metallic metal. And, I guess that was both a blessing and a curse, because all of that trim meant I could practice a lot, and the fact that it was trim meant that if I screwed it up, people weren't really going to notice too much unless it was egregiously bad. So it actually turned out to be pretty okay, and it was good enough for me to place first. But since then, it's just been kind of a struggle to do non-metallic metal to that level on much bigger surfaces. And so far, it's been going. I also did a thing with his blade. I was not very good at wet blending at the time, and I'm still not. But instead of making his blade completely, like, on fire, the only parts that were on fire were the actual flame. The rest of it I painted in a non-metallic metal steel. And, again, I guess the effect sold well enough because people looked at it and were like, yep, that's going to be our vote for that category. But I just remember being incredibly anxious because it's like, this wasn't that good. They're gonna... I hope it places. So yeah, all that worrying was Not very well founded because, like I said, I ended up winning. You give me a second, I can post it. One moment, please. I don't have a preview window. Let's get a preview window up. Window capture. Window capture. That is not what I want. That's streaming. No, we're going to get rid of that because that shouldn't have popped up like that. You guys didn't need to see my OBS studio and my Discord. Oh, that's not it. Four hands. What is going to be posted? Actually, I could just go to my Instagram, I think. Instagram. Okay, computer, I know you can load faster than this. All the way to the bottom for it, I guess. There's the lad. I guess that'll do. I don't know. Cancel. It's fine. Yeah, right. Boom. There he is. There's the boy. That was the Gilliman that I entered into the contest. And yeah, like I said, I think he turned out pretty good. But I just remember spending like 16 hours on the guy just trying to get the non-metallic metal right. Everything else I just kind of airbrushed. And I think my favorite thing about him is that I wanted to use both his helmet and his head. So I sliced the plug off of his neck and I like super glued it into the neck post. And then I put a magnet in there, and I put a magnet in his helmet, put a magnet in his head, and now you can just kind of take it off and put it back in there. Actually, do I have a better dealie that shows him off? One moment. There's this guy. Would it have been end of year stuff? Is that? Oh. No, that's not what I'm looking for. I'm losing my mind. That's all that's happening. Mission stuff. Nope, that's not what I want. Yeah, forget it. I'll look it up some other time. But yeah, magnetizing is difficult and I don't like doing it. It does definitely help make your armies a lot more versatile though. Okay, so the next thing that needs to get got is the Scythe. Yeah, since I got the new computer, I tried to use OneDrive, Microsoft OneDrive, to bring everything over. That didn't work out so well. So now all of my files are showing up as like the generic blank thumbnail with an X next to them to say they didn't load properly. Which kind of sucks because they're not supposed to be saved in OneDrive anymore. I disconnected OneDrive. They're just files on my computer. So I don't know why it's continuing to do that. Okay. That's a little too purpley or a little too maroon for my liking. There, and there. I know it's some disconnect in my cloud server, but that's about it. I think I might make that smokestack more of a metal color than this eventual like rust color, but I guess we'll find out. Okay. Okay, so just out of curiosity, how did you guys find out about me? Because I know that I post that I'm going to start streaming in a couple of different Discords. But beyond that, I usually don't get a whole lot of hits, which is fine. It's just, you know, just in case. But I'm curious, like, how did you guys find me? Was it just via Twitch, or did you happen to notice the post? I was very tickled to find out that Twitch put a Warhammer category in, because when I first started doing this, I think like a year or two ago, Doig Swift, very cool. Yeah, the Mortarion I was talking about, you're going to get to see on Community Day, which hopefully will happen this time, because I think Doig is still out, and she's obviously not feeling well. So I don't know if Community Day is actually going to happen tomorrow. Yeah, they are quite a pair. Okay. I don't think I want to get too deep into the pits right in here, because those are going to create some nice shadows. Okay. So Technicat, do you do any mini painting? Well, actually, do I know one of you mentioned that you know some of the Warhams and you play, but you guys have your own armies? Do you guys play Warhammer? I think that's gonna have to... I think that's actually pretty good in terms of where everything is. All of these colors look okay. Yep, next step up. So this used to be a very expensive Winsor & Newton brush, and then I kind of destroyed the tip, and now it's just kind of a sloppy base coat brush. And this used to be an almost as expensive Citadel brush, but again, I destroyed the tip, and now it's just barely good enough for me to do some more fine detail work. You're not into Warhammer, but you painted a few D&D minis, you're pretty bad. Well, the only way to get better is to keep going, and I think you're not giving yourself enough credit. Something that I've kind of learned, and I love to joke about, is like, everyone's first mini is not that great, but they get to have that first mini to look back on and see how much better they've gotten. I think I still have my first mini. It was an angel, a Reaper Bones angel that a friend let me paint, and it was not good, to say the least, but he let me keep it, because he was like, if you paint a mini, it's yours, which is fair, I suppose. But I remember doing it and being like, you know, thanks for letting me do this, but this really isn't my thing. You're a digital 2D artist by trade. 3D things confuse me. That's absolutely fair. I'm trying to get into, like, learning Blender, which you can see by my little frogman over in the corner, but I just haven't really had the time to sit down and play with it anymore. I like spent a weekend very feverishly trying to make that guy, and then I realized that rigging is difficult. And so I kind of set it aside while I went back to doing my actual job, and then I never really got back to it. But yeah, my wife, Art by QB, is a 2D digital artist. She's actually at a convention she's going to go to a convention. She's down in North Carolina, kind of prepping. And I was supposed to go with her, but we weren't exactly able to find a friend to watch the pets for essentially 5 days. So I'm here holding down the fort. I hope he's a good frog. He's going to try his best. My goal is to eventually get him on a tadpole, so that he's got like his own little swamp area that he hangs out at, and I think that'll be nice and cute. It was my wife's idea, and I don't know what else I'm going to do with it. I know that just for funsies in Blender, I sculpted a bolter, so from Warhammer, which is like the gun the Space Marines use. So he's definitely going to have to hold that, and I think I'm going to make it shoot like big goofy Nerf darts or something. But there's a lot of things I gotta learn before I can figure all that out, and unfortunately I know too little. Yeah, I did Doig's first lesson that he put up on how to program for like running and jumping, and I didn't realize that was an old, outdated version of the lesson, and he's actually done a newer one, and I just haven't gone back to try and look for it, to be honest. And now that I've migrated computers, I don't know where anything is. So I'm probably gonna have to start fresh, because like that's just a PNG of the actual model. I did 2 of them. I did one of him, you know, talking, and I did the other of him just kind of standing there smiling like a doofus. But it's been good enough for what I need now. I've also been dealing with some mild medical issues and health issues, so nothing too bad. Just things that have prevented me from streaming regularly. Okay. And so something kind of cool here is that even though I clearly didn't paint the chainmail around his waist, by hitting it with like this brown and then hitting it again with this orange, it's going to create like a rusty effect. Because the base color is dark enough that it looks like chainmail. Okay, mix some more orange into that brown. Knock the moisture off, test it against my finger. So something mini painting artists tend to do, and you know, I always find it really funny until I started doing it, is that they'll like test the a paint stroke against their thumb. And to me, that always just seemed really silly, because it's like you've got a perfectly good paper towel right next to you. But it does a really good job of kind of showing whether or not you have the right consistency, because if you do, you should be able to see skin underneath. Like, you should be able to make out the wrinkles in your skin and the details without it feeling too watery. And if you can't, then it's too thick. Yeah, it's been a weird year. It's been a weird couple of years. It's like, you know, COVID happened and then everything just kept going, I don't want to say downhill, because some people have had some very fortunate things happen to them occur after COVID, but I know for a fact my health went downhill really quickly, even before I caught COVID. And so, which was 2 years ago now, I guess? Not quite 2 years ago. But more to the point, it's just like, I did have a job. And now medically I'm in between jobs, which I never thought I'd leave. So it's just, things have been weird, man. Okay. That's gonna look really good when it's done. Okay, we're gonna go ahead and hit some of that. So, pardon my ignorance in asking this question, but what kind of 2D digital art do you make? How's it going? Pretty okay, Semajoli's. It's been, mine too, it's been wild for a couple years. Yeah, I bet. How's it going, buddy? How was your day? It was one of the days. Yeah, I was actually just talking about why I'm not there with you right now. Between all the health things that I've been going through and the fact that I'm currently unemployed. Yeah. Though I guess the good news is I'm starting to encourage a friend, and now he's taking the online courses with me. And if he is available tomorrow, he's going to come by and we're going to help him get registered for the local community college. And then the next day we're going to go in and do our interviews so that we can figure out his financial situation and my financial situation, and then we can register for summer classes. I'm actually a teacher, but I used to make cartoons and stuff, did art for a small mobile game ages ago. That's really freaking cool. Are you at I'm assuming you're at liberty to, Octopus. I'm assuming you're at liberty to talk about it. What mobile game was it? I'm curious. Yeah, I feel like teachers are definitely getting their butts kicked right now. It's really unfortunate. Our local school just had like 2 major shooting threats happen over the last week, and it's got everything shut down. And we found out one of them was from like a dude in his mid-30s, and then the second one, which happened after the first dude was arrested, was from a relative. All hands on deck. Oh, well, that's cool. I don't think I've ever heard of it. I don't tend to play mobile games very often. Charges got dropped against him? Ugh. Again, the older guy? Well, that's unfortunate. Was there any... I mean, there had to have been an explanation given why they didn't charge him. Did he have, like, an actual valid alibi as to why he did such a thing? It was a game you want to play on the toilet? I mean, honestly, those games are the best kind, though, because you don't need to have, like, a huge commitment, and if you don't play for a while and pick it back up, then, you know, you're not gonna worry too much about it. The threats didn't stop. That's... I get it, but at the same time, I don't get it, because I'm pretty sure it was easy to prove that, you know, those were coming from someone else, and those very clearly came from his email account. But, you know, I'm not a lawyer. I'm just a small-town country miniature painter. We made $0 on it, but it was fun. I mean, that's the most important part, right? Because at the very least, you can say that the time you spent working on it was enjoyable. And that's something that my wife has been through a lot, is she had a previous partner really try and push on her that she should, you know, draw porn, draw hentai. And she was like, I don't want to. He was like, but it'll sell. She's like, I know, but that's not what I want to make. That's not the kind of thing I want to be known for. And, yeah, so there were many other things wrong with that relationship, but that was a big one. I learned that I did not want to be a game artist. That's fair. Yeah, it was one of those things where it's like, that experience taught me a lot, and the major thing it taught me was I don't want to be here anymore. So, yeah, so Semajoli's, I wonder what that's going to mean for the young individual that was caught, and whether or not more is going to come of that, or whether that person learned their lesson. Because, I mean, we saw it happen in real time. It was not difficult to find them. Yeah. I can always hope. Like, it's real easy to be pessimistic about it, but I can always hope. No one learns anything. Yeah, that is kind of the unfortunate part. As far as they're concerned, they probably thought they were being targeted and didn't deserve to have that happen to them. They just Google. Yeah. Who knows? Maybe they, maybe if it's not very outward, they did manage to learn something from this situation. What started to get me, honestly, was that, was even beyond the just Google, was that I had kids just straight up turning in stuff they found on ChatGPT and not even trying to hide it. And it's like, even if this wasn't the case, it's still cheating, and you're still trying to get away with cheating. And I think, hey, Snow Twig, how's it going, buddy? I wasn't able to stick around for Lady V's Baldur's Gate. How did that go? I have a student who's actively bragging about having another student do all their work. Ugh. Glad to know we got the student code of conduct up and running. They've been pushing teachers to use AI. Yeah. They did that to us, and it was really funny because they were telling us to use AI in legally compromising situations. We had a keynote speaker who told the special ed teachers to write their individualized education plans. Doing okay, don't know how to leave to eat as well. Fair enough. Last time I checked in, it was utter chaos, which is the kind of chaos you want from a Lady V stream, so I guess that's okay. But yeah, we had a keynote speaker this year who told us to use AI to help us write our individual education plans for special needs students. And that's really freaking illegal. So that was very fun to hear. And one of my best friends is a special ed teacher, so he heard that and he almost walked out. Looks like the paint is going amazing. Yeah, I kind of leveled up since the last time you saw me because I found this amazing painter online, and he had like this high contrast version of another Death Guard character, and so I just kind of followed his tutorial. And that was in the last community day. You probably saw him. It was Typhus. And so I've been following that because these guys are going to be Typhus's bodyguards, and so I want them to all look really freaking amazing. Use AI to write lesson plans, not to use, but to give admin if they ask it. Nobody got time for their micromanagement. Yeah, exactly. I mean, excuse me, at the very least, I don't think I've ever had admin ask me for any of my lesson plans. And so because of that, I haven't really written lesson plans in many years before they gave us that one program. So yeah, what's happening with this guy, Snowtwig, is that I'm doing a very high contrast paint job on him. And I'm starting with a really, really deep color, and then I'm working my way up to much, much brighter colors so that he's got these brilliant highlights and whatnot. And it's been going really well because it's really making a lot of the details stand out. And, you know, since this is Death Guard, and they're all supposed to look a little messy anyway. So all in all, I'm pretty darn jazzed with the look of these guys. Okay, I think these are just going to end up being like plated metal. I don't know. I'll figure it out. Okay, so you need to go on there. Now, I definitely fudged a little on this guy last time. With the dark purple, it has aubergine vibes. Yeah, that's kind of the idea. That's kind of the idea. Doig mentioned that the green ended up having this great, like, emerald color. And I wasn't even thinking about that, but when I looked at it again, it was like, wow, it is emerald. And I really dig that. So, only the special characters are getting these. The rest of my Death Guard look a lot more just like grim and dark and have much more muted coloring to them. But that's the point, right? I really want these guys to stand out. So hopefully that ends up being the case, and hopefully I'll be able to display them on the next community day as like a whole thing, because you got the combat patrol last time. This time we're getting a really big old model. Hopefully we're able to do community day tomorrow, and if we are, I've got like the biggest model the Death Guard got is going to show up, and I kind of can't wait for them to see it. And I think for the next community day, I've got a plan. I'm going to 3D print a Great Unclean One, and so I think I'm going to make Swift as like uncomfortable as possible with the body horror, because I don't know, Snowtwig, have you seen a Great Unclean One before? I forget how much into the Warhammer you are. Because that was a model that I've wanted for a long time but just could not afford. And to be honest, oh dear, I still can't afford it. So I found a 3D sculpt. Gotta head to dinner? Thanks for the stream. No problem. Have a good dinner. So it's called a Great Unclean One because it's Nurgle, which is the god of death and rot. And Nurgle has also been shown as like pustulent and way too heavy and bloated. And so the Great Unclean One is just like this giant mass of flesh that kind of everything about it is offensive to the senses, right? And this one in particular is a character named Rodigus, and he's one of Nurgle's favorites. So let me pop this up on screen so you can be a little upsetty spaghetti. You're not sure Community Day, what Doig's away. Yeah, that's what I thought too. Is it's like there's no way she's going to do Community Day if Doig's not there, because she kind of needs to have a second person there. This is a great unclean one. In particular, the character Rodigus. So I'm excited to print that out, put it together, and then paint it for the next Community Day. But yeah, everything about this is what a cutie. Everything about this is upsetting as far as I'm concerned, and I'm pretty okay with that. I am excited to see how horrifying it's going to look once I get my hands on it, because he is also going to get a high contrast treatment, but he's just going to be really fleshy and pink and green. At least that's the plan. Whether or not I'll be able to follow through with it, who knows? But all I know is he's going to be upsetting to look at. Okay. When I did my first run of Death Guard, the Great Clean one, I thought about that because I have a couple of 3D prints, but as fun as that would be to do, I want to stick on theme with these guys. So yeah, someone made, they took a Forge World Great Unclean one, which is slightly different looking, and they sanded him down and filled him in with like molding clay and whatnot, and they smoothed him out so that he became what they called a they called a Great Clean one. And so it was this giant baby-looking demon thing that was actually more uncomfortable to look at than the Great Unclean one. So hopefully, at some point in my life, I will be able to do such a thing. But since this is a 3D print, I don't really want to mess around with it too much. I just want it to be the thing, you know? And I also, Semajoli's just found out that, the other thing I was going to add into my... I decided I was going to just remake a 2,000 point Death Guard list. And it was going to have an allied detachment of Nurgle demons. And, one thing in that detachment is just going to be, like, Beasts of Nurgle, which the Games Workshop model looks really stupid. So I found a really good 3D print that's appropriately gross and horrifying, and I found out that they can have a leader attached to their unit, and that leader would allow them to reroll charges. And since they're entirely melee, I feel like I've got to go ahead and put that together. But it's like a gross little Nurgling. You've got some new Thunderwolf cavalry, so you can field 2 squads. Evening, Hands on Beef. How's it going? Yeah, that's right. You mentioned that the local game store had some new minis, and so you went out and got them? Okay, let's see. We're gonna... Good going? That's good to hear. Studio J with a party of 57. Good gravy. Hello, guys. How are you doing? Thank you for the raid. I appreciate it. Definitely nowhere near as big as Studio J, but I really appreciate the raid. I'm Ben Repaints. I'm a very small-time mini painter who's just kind of been doing this for fun and is trying to kind of rebuild his stream right now because I had to take an extended leave of absence. I paint... Yes, thank you. I really appreciate it, guys. I paint mainly Warhammer minis, though I'm trying to branch out and do some other things. I say as I paint another Warhammer mini. Right now, I'm working on some Death Shroud bodyguards that are getting a high contrast treatment to match Typhus, who I did in a very, very bright high contrast treatment. So for those who just entered... Oh goodness, here we go. This is what the original guy looked like. Thank you, I appreciate it. I can't take credit for it. There's a gentleman on YouTube named Phelan Miniatures who has a tutorial for making this high contrast color scheme. And so I kind of just copied his. His is much, much better. But, yeah, I wanted to do this for my characters. So, Typhus got the look, this Death Shroud is going to get the look, Mortarion got the look, and I've got to continue working on him. Yeah. Oh, I'm definitely taking credit for this, because it's beautiful. But yeah,
all my characters are going to get these like high contrast looks that are hopefully going to make them more interesting to look at and easier to recognize on the field, because my first Death Guard army that I ended up selling was a lot of the same. Thank you. Thank you, Pelt 76. They are very cool Death Guard. They were all kind of bland and they all blended together, and that made them a lot less fun to play. So hopefully these guys will stand out more. Okay. I'm going to continue putting this layer of like orangey brown on here, and then I can eventually move up. My mic is really bassy. I think actually that's just me. I have a pretty deep voice, and so I'm going to need to go back in and adjust it, I suppose. So I apologize for the rumble. I'll have to fix that. Give me a second. Actually, let me... I don't really want to futz with this while I'm on stream, but I guess I'm going to futz with this while I'm on stream. Okay. I'm going to turn the low down. Hopefully that fixes it. Hopefully that fixed with the bassy mic. Do I have... It looks like a little bit on the handle. Okay. Gonna hit that handle with just a little bit of that red, or that orange brown. The bass tube was booming. Yep, that's me. Benry the bass boy. But yeah, eventually I plan on doing a little more with my little avatar down there. Whoops, I forgot to paint that thing entirely. He's a 3D model that I made in Blender. I was trying to learn Blender for a bit, and I was able to create him, but then I found out that like rigging and animating is very difficult, and I have no idea how to do it. Can hear the voice clearly now. Awesome, awesome, awesome. That's what we want. But my eventual goal is to have like a whole environment for him, where he can like run around with and paint. I was heavily inspired by another set of Twitch streamers named Doigan Swift, and they do some really, really cool stuff with their system. They've got like an entire game built in Unity that they can run around with and interact with chat, and I was really inspired by that. So my goal is to eventually get there, but that'll take me getting back in to try to learn Unity again. You gonna head out? Okay, Semijolis. Can't wait to play Warhammer sometime soon, hopefully. Yeah, goodness gracious, it's been a while. Apparently they hold it on Friday. Yeah, I gotta get back into it, because I do have a Unity online class thing from Zenva Academy that I bought a while ago, and I don't think it expires, so I really should get on it. But we shall see. Okay. Okay, now I think I can go just straight into the orange. Because that was like orange and light brown. I did a bright orange and a flat brown, I think it was called, from Vallejo. So now I can go just into the flat orange, which should really start highlighting these little edges. And something that I kind of learned as I attempted to replicate this style was that you kind of got to work on like 80% of the previous layer that you did. Because if you put too much paint back over it, it ends up covering up the work of the previous layer, and you just end up having these really stark contrasts of dark, right, butted up right against to the light. And that's not what I want. Okay, sadly Raiden Run is late here, but great to pop in and see your work. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, have a good one. Go get some rest. Thank you very much. I do appreciate it. Okay. That's going to get nice and bright and orange. And then, once it eventually gets that, like, yellow highlight, it's going to be super, super bright. So, I hope the stream you guys just came from was a good one. I hope you guys had a great time. Sorry this one's a little more pared down, but it's what I've been able to do so far, and I enjoy it. Okay. A little bit more here. You can already see how angry that's looking. That's what I'm looking for. I want this to really be eye-catching. And just having this little bit of this highlight on here. is what's going to make it so. And so each preceding layer should be just a smidge brighter and cover a little less. That's the main thing, just have fun. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, just take a little of that back off because I don't want all that moisture getting onto this. Of all the things to make this painting, to make my technique better, the controlling of the moisture being such a key component was not what I was expecting. Like, I knew moisture control on a brush was important because you didn't want things to just puddle and pool and whatnot, but learning how to better control the amount of moisture on my brush when I start painting these highlights has been so darn important. And it's definitely made my painting look better. And I think that's so cool, but at the same time, such a weird little hack. So for anyone watching, if you want a tip on how to better your skills and just level up in a simple way, just be very, very aware of how much moisture is actually on your brush. And hopefully that'll help. Because it being a little drier definitely allows it to go on a lot more subtly than when it's more wet. Okay. Yeah, that's looking good. I like that. Look at them leggies. His leggies. Okay. But yeah, this is, this was just part of an army that I was interested in. I had purchased a lot from someone who was trying to get out of the hobby many years ago, and all of his stuff was like tabletop ready, and it looked fine for what it was, but it really wasn't my painting style. And especially as I got better at painting, I really wanted to like redo it and have them look more like my style, but I was too scared. I was too scared to like strip and repaint them because I was still relatively new to the hobby. And I ended up selling all of them as a lot because at the time I wasn't having fun playing them, I wasn't having fun fielding them. And especially at the very beginning of 10th edition, they weren't exactly very good. So I ended up selling all of them and just kind of going full in on my Imperial Fists, which is like my first army, my first major army. They're the ones that I kind of rep the hardest, if you can't tell by my t-shirt. How is 10th edition? It depends on who you talk to. If you're a casual player, I think it's pretty darn enjoyable. I haven't gotten to play as much as I'd like to, but the games I have played have been unanimously fun. Like, I haven't had a bad game at 10th edition. 9th edition, I felt like there were times where I would play a game and then get... I mean, I hate to put it this way, but get my ass beat in, like, the first round and then have to go through 4 more rounds of slog to finish it out. Because there was just enough of a chance that I might do something. With 10th edition, that doesn't feel like it happens at all. I understand that competitively, 10th edition is kind of in a weird place, and people aren't happy with the limited customizability, because the way they used to determine like points for your army, it was based on your equipment. And not only did they take away some of the options for equipment, they also made it so that points aren't affected by the equipment you carry. And so lists became a lot more homogeneous as people just started taking the best equipment that you could. Because, like, in the old game, a Space Marine Sergeant would start with a standard bolt rifle and, I guess, a close combat weapon. Maybe a chainsword, I think, was free. And if they wanted a better weapon or a better melee weapon, they would have to spend more points on that one specific model. And so there was a nice little push-pull of, like, what do I equip him with to make him most useful, but not waste any points. I started with Grey Knights, then bought 8th edition Dark Imperium set for rules and the 2 forces that came with the boss, still building them. Fair enough. I mean, the starter boxes are so nice, and they come with so many models. I'd love to get my hands on another Lord of Contagion from the 8th edition starter set. Such a cool model. But anyway, that used to be a thing, and now it's not. You can just take whatever you want. So we're seeing a lot more sergeants just kitted out with the best gun and melee weapon they could get, and units that otherwise might have to compromise a little with their heavy equipment, just taking the best stuff they can, and it all not really mattering on the point scale. Though, admittedly, I feel like they designed the game around that, so it works okay. I can't speak for competitive because I don't play. You finish the box set, but still collecting for the army. It takes time. Yeah, it really does. I think the single worst thing that I did for myself was get a 3D printer. Because once I started being able to 3D print things, it fed into like all of my worst addictive parts of my personality. And then when I realized that the 3D printed models still didn't have the quality that I was looking for compared to the real things, it just made it all worse. But it did mean I got to paint an incredible amount of minis that I otherwise wouldn't have been able to. And that meant my skill as a mini painter got to improve in ways it never would have. The 8th edition box was the one that, like, they introduced the Primaris line for the Space Marines and the new Death Guard, right? That's kind of where I've forgotten. I don't remember when they introduced them. You're after a 3D printed Mortarion? Which one? There's like 5 of them. They're all real pretty, don't get me wrong. But yeah, I have a couple of Mortarion files. What's his name? 3D art guy did an absolutely beautiful, like, statue print of both post Demon Primarch Mortarion, and I've been meaning to print it out, but I just haven't had really a chance to, and it's so detailed. That's one of the biggest problems with his prints, is that they're meant to be printed at like 75mm, and the 40K version that has the Scythe and the wings, there's a lot of them out there, and they're all in varying degrees of detail. Some of them look great, some of them look okay, but honestly, I don't think any of them quite match up to the to the real thing. The real model is so beautiful. I think it really is like my favorite 40K model by a country mile. And that's why I posted him for Community Day that Doig and Swift do. Because they need to see that thing. They got to see my Death Guard Combat Patrol repaint last month. And so this month they're going to get to see the leader of that faction. You've seen one, but it is sword. Another nice one had no wings. Yeah, they're hard to find, simply because Games Workshop has gotten a whole lot better at identifying, 3D printers like that, or 3D artists, which I have beliefs on, but, gotta go to sleep? Yeah, go to sleep, Snoochwick. I appreciate you being here. Have a good rest of your evening, buddy. Oh my goodness, it's almost 7 o'clock. I'm gonna need to go soon. I need to have dinner. But yeah, if you go to the purple site and you type in Primarch, you can find some decent some proxies. If you don't have a 3D printer, then I'm not sure where you can go for that, and I apologize. Sorry about the French, but FGW, they started ripping off IP. They wouldn't exist if they didn't. That is true. I mean, there is a certain degree of, like, everyone rips off someone else, everyone's influenced by someone else, but GW definitely was pretty heavy-handed with their references. I think at the very least, they were decent enough to, scratch off the barcodes and try and make it somewhat original. But that's neither here nor there. I'm not a shill for Games Workshop. I do appreciate some of the things they do in some of their business practices, and also sneer at some other ones. Okay. I think, unfortunately, no, I got one last little thing. I gotta get the little diddly bit on the top of him head. There we go. I just want to make that look a little messy. Everything else, I think, is pretty okay for now. So, GW or Chinese under the skin. They can say it's there. Fair enough. Okay, so I think this is where I'm going to have to call it for today. Kind of a shorter stream on my end, but I need to go get dinner. I usually start at around 4:30 Eastern, if I can, go to about 6. I was able to change it a little bit because my wife is out of town, so I didn't have to go have dinner with her tonight. But yep, this is where he is. Hopefully I can continue working on him tomorrow, possibly Friday, no clue. But either way, I'm going to go find someone to send you guys off to. We'll see what we can do. I think they do, they just have their own proprietary version of it, which can be a problem. One of my favorite things I've ever heard was there was a company in China that was known for doing like ripping off cell phones, and they were going to try and sue Apple for copying the screen technology. AC Miniatures, we're going to send you over to AC Miniatures. And when asked about it, because they were known for making knockoffs, they were like, it's different this time. They were copying us. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. Thank you for joining me, guys. We're going to go ahead and raid AC Miniatures, because they look like they're doing something fun. I hope you guys have a great rest of your evening. Thank you so much for joining me today, and have a good one. Okay. Bye-bye.